the official recording.
Welcome everyone who's joined. We'll get started in just a minute. And Heidi, we should have worn Halloween costumes. I think that would have been, and maybe if anyone did wear a Halloween costume, we can give a prize of some kind.
How do you like my Zoom background?
That's good.
Here we go.
If you were to dress up, what would you have dressed up as?
Ted Lasso, I think that is.
Very nice.
Yeah, or Squid Game is going to be, I think, but most of the costumes are stuck in containers somewhere, I think.
Yeah, very true. I'm going to try to find Nathan's background as well, or something similar.
Perfect. So we'll just give another minute and then we will dive in. Okay, I'm still filling in here. Okay, Heidi, if you're okay to get going, I'm okay to get going, and we will dive right in. So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining the Toronto Product Management Association's talk with special guest Heidi Ram. My name is Sean Olmsted, and along with my fellow board members, we'd love to welcome you to this talk tonight. Let me start off by sharing a bit about Heidi's background and why she's extremely qualified to talk to us about the roadmap of your product career. So Heidi has 20 years worth of insight as a senior recruiter at Martin Bassett, specializing in finding and placing top product talent. She did her first product placement back in 2008, and Heidi operates across Canada, and she has active searches in the US as well, in Silicon Valley. And she's just an expert at recruiting great product leaders at all levels, including current searches that she has at the Chief Product Officer ranks. So welcome, Heidi, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. And I just want to say, I so appreciate, the number of people who are joining this evening. I'm sure that all of you are coming off a day that is just back-to-back Zoom calls. So thank you for choosing to be here tonight and spending this time together. And I want to be of value and of help to you in these interesting times in the market, where the market is crazy and everyone's sort of interested again in careers and their personal career changes or what they're doing, as a leader in their business. So I'm happy to be here and talk about all these things.
And they're very interesting times. And for those of you who are new to the TPMA, thanks for joining us tonight. A couple of housekeeping points I'd like to make before we jump into some of the questions with Heidi. There will be a Q&A at the end. So please be sure to enter your questions on the Zoom channel or on the Zoom chat. Also stick around for open mic for community announcements. And of course, we will also have some breakout rooms for networking as well. So with that, Heidi, can you give us a glimpse of what you're going to share with us tonight?
I would love
a bit of a preview.
Sounds great. So we're going to begin by talking about what's happening in the market because that seems to be a hot topic for everyone, no matter where you are, literally in the globe and across all functions, but tonight in product. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that means for candidates and for employers. And then I really want to sort of sink in and talk about product manager careers. And this, I sort of identify this as the roadmap of a product manager, whether you're entering the market, whether you are in the market in sort of the midpoint of your career, and then those individuals who are much further along, who are senior players. What are some of the things that become important at different stages of your career? And what does that mean to you if you're starting to think about opportunities? So we're going to be talking about that, and then we'll end with some really practical, I'm going to call them tips or things to think about should you decide that you actually want to make a job change. How might you do that? How might you go about that? And what role might a recruiter play in your journey?
That's awesome. And it sounds like you have something for everyone, whether you're starting your career in product, whether you're mid-career, whether you're a little bit longer in the tooth like me, whether you're at every stage. It sounds like you'll have something for everyone tonight. So let's dive into the first question I have. So Heidi, the product market seems like it's just on fire. I read a recent stat that the demand for product management roles has gone up, has doubled in the last 5 years. And Toronto is one of the hottest markets in North America for product management. So such an amazing time to be in product, looking for a role in product, moving to product. What are you seeing in the market from your point of view?
So that's a really great question. And even before I begin to talk about sort of what the state of the market is right now from a hiring and job seeking and recruitment perspective, I thought maybe I would touch on one of the questions that a lot of employers will ask us or candidates ask us about just the overall craziness of the market and why there is such a unique time in the market for product talent. And for anyone who has been in the business for quite some time, may remember that there was a time when software was not available as a subscription service. Any old timers out there? Any old timers who know things like on-prem? So there was a time when the heroes of a software company were software salespeople. Wow, if you were a software salesperson, you were those high income earning, quota crushing people who really were looked upon as the heroes of a tech company. And it was all about the $1 million deals and I got a $5 million deal. Well, this person, they just closed a $10 million deal and they crushed their quota. This was the era of when I began in search. And an interesting thing happened when everything moved to a subscription model was that very slowly and incremental changes, and then all of a sudden, the product became everything because people could choose, companies could choose not to renew. And so it's been a very interesting observation to see this market evolve, and with it, product management has really stepped up into the front seat, center stage, as the critical function that tech companies rely on to build a business that is considered successful with lots of users and customers and revenue and growth. And so it's really that foundation that has been magnified by a trend referred to now as product-led growth, where companies are saying, forget the salespeople. We don't even need salespeople. We want to build something and launch a product and a business that's going to sell itself. And even that is a foundation upon which product, the stakes are higher, all right? When we think about all of this evolution in the tech industry and all of the subset industries and jobs that were created to serve subscription-based businesses and how those companies are marketed Suddenly, there's all of these SMB companies, owner-operated businesses that rely on technology to do their job, but they don't have procurement departments, and they don't even have internal tech teams. They are an individual making a buying decision, entering their credit card, and you know what? That product better work. It better be delightful, and hopefully I won't churn out and go on to the next competitor. So this is part of all of that excitement and build up that we find ourselves in. PLG is everywhere and very talked about. And for that reason, product management skills and these functions are ranked as some of the top skills that companies are investing in.
Yeah, so when you think about how it's changed over the last 5 years, you think about how you hear about these roles now about chief product officers. And now I read a stat recently, like 31% of companies actually have a chief product officer. And you see that Venn diagram of business, tech, user experience. And those three circles coming together, in the middle is product management. And user experience is something that has kind of come upon us. User experience isn't something that used to happen in the hardware only world. It's happening in the SaaS world. So you can kind of see the need and the pull of people moving into the product management realm. So, what does this mean? What does all this mean for potential candidates looking for a role in product management?
Yeah, well, what I'm going to, even before I get into that, I'm going to kind of give you a bit of a deeper glimpse into what's happening in the market that's really impacting candidates. Anyone in this room today, even if you're not in the market as an active candidate interviewing, we all as human beings are a decision away from entering a job search or saying yes to engaging in a cycle. And there's conditions that are happening in the marketplace that are impacting you if you make that decision to become a candidate. And in parallel, there's a whole set of experiences and things that are happening in the industry that are really having a dramatic impact on organizations and employers and how they're grappling to hire in this unique and crazy market. So I want to draw your attention to this, to the first slide that I'm going to show you. And this side on the left are some of the bullet points I'm going to talk through that which really impact a candidate, everyday people like you and me. Okay. So first of all, what's happening in the market is that there's a tremendous amount of investment being made in tech today. Anytime that I read a press release, on Sunday nights when I get the alert from BetaKit and I'm looking at the more recent fundraisers, it is astonishing to see the money that is being, invested in tech. It's very exciting. So a lot of hiring comes as a direct result of the investment that has been made into a tech startup. So that's fueling headcount and hiring. Then we have, of course, the location factors living and working in a post-COVID world, or COVID. I don't know if we're post-COVID, but 18 months into COVID. So suddenly individuals, you and I, candidates, realize that, wow, I actually have access to opportunities that I never had access to before. You might be getting calls or messages from recruiters in other states, other countries, and they think you are a fit for one of their roles. And before COVID, if you had to be in their office, wherever it was, you wouldn't even be a contender. So this is adding more fuel to this incredibly hot market fire. Then we have this phenomenon of the FANGs companies, generally referred to as FANG: Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google. I add the S on it. I add Shopify as one of these companies. And there's a lot of talk in the market, especially in the US, about how these organizations hire. And they did begin hiring in Canada long before COVID, but of course it's magnified. And with these organizations come higher than average salaries and budgets, or their RSU, that piece that is the extra on top of a base salary earning, it's magnifying what some candidates can earn in the market. And sometimes the sort of the bounce back to these organizations really aggressively recruiting is that it evokes in candidates a bit of a question. And it's natural for a candidate to wonder, wow, I heard someone I know got a crazy offer. Perhaps I too could be worth that much more than what I'm being paid for now. So that's part of what's adding fuel. All of that, all of what I've described, increasing salaries. Technology companies are looking at how they compensate. Salaries are, in many cases, I won't say all, but for many organizations, salaries are increasing. Or if they're not increasing, here's what's interesting for candidates, is that many candidates feel they have a case for a number they dictate. This is fascinating. This is very fascinating. Sometimes those candidates may come to a number for specific reasons. Otherwise, it's a, hey, I'm going to share this number because I think that's what I'm worth based on what I think the market is like. So that's adding more fire to this market. Then we have the gold rush factor. The gold rush factor is, hey, tech's hot, product is hot. I'm going to take a boot camp. I'm going to take a workshop. I'm going to take a class. I'm going to sign up for this. And I'm going to become a UX person. I'm going to become a product person. I'm going to become a CPO. And so people rush into the function because they know it's hot, it's exciting, smart people get into it, and it's sort of the center of a lot of universes for tech companies. The other interesting dynamic that's happening in the market for candidates is an observation. I call it like, when you're driving, if you've ever looked for an apartment, okay? Have you ever looked for an apartment and there's certain buildings that you really want to live in? There's always a vacant sign, but nothing's available. Have you ever been in that situation? So there's some organizations, because of how they hire or the specific skills that they're hiring for, always project like we have an opening, we have a position, when they might not necessarily have the position that you hope they have, or even an active position, but they're waiting for that FANGS level person to knock on their door and say, hey, I'd like to work for your company. And then suddenly there might be a position. All right. So all of these interesting things are happening in the marketplace. What does that mean? It's noisy and there's clutter. There's lots of chaotic stuff that candidates are having to sort through and grapple with to determine what's real, what isn't real, what am I worth? Why do I think what I'm worth is true? Oh, that's what I'm really worth, or seeking, these salaries. So that's kind of what's happening on the candidate side. And if anyone is experiencing something else, I'd love to, chime in your comments in the comment section. I'd love to know what your experience is being a candidate in the market. In parallel, on the employer side, all of the things I just mentioned are impacting them in the same way. But here's an interesting thing that we saw happening in March and April of last year, in the early days of COVID. The generation of business leader who had gone through a crisis earlier, might have been the 2008 crisis, housing correction crisis, and how that impacted tech, or the dot-com bomb. Okay, anyone lived through that? I remember 2002. How about you? Never again. I never want to go through that again. And so leaders, maybe they were board members, maybe they're the people with the money, your venture partner. Maybe it's outside advisors or people who influence the leaders of a tech company. They began to manage or influence or provide leadership having come through a crisis before. Because what do investors want to ensure happen? That they realize an ROI on their investment. So over their dead body, is this company going to go anywhere but up one day, right? So that was very interesting because that began to impact hiring. All right. Employers are dealing with the fact that for all the reasons we discussed, it's a candidates market right now. And it's interesting to watch how employers wrestle with the reality of a candidates market that's magnified because of all of these things that we've talked about. And all of this has resulted in some frustration among employers because, something that was very interesting earlier this year, we were retained for a very specific piece of work by a very high profile Toronto tech company, very high profile. Everyone here would know who this company is, and you would probably know who the product leader is. And even they were struggling with making a critical hire. And even they asked, like, Heidi, what is going on? Because we are not attracting the people we need to hire. In particular, this one critical role that they engaged us for. And so it's interesting to hear the frustration firsthand from employers and how they're being forced to look at how they do things, or at least, and the best employers will always start to look and reimagine how they do things. And so all of that means that there's a reimagining of process, hopefully across all companies. I know some of the ones we work with are, but all of that equals noise and clutter. All right. It's a noisy, cluttered market, and everyone is trying to do the best they can. So that's kind of where I sit as a recruiter, what I'm seeing talking with candidates and talking with clients, the market, technology founders, CEOs, or product leaders. How crazy is that?
It is crazy. And you mentioned something that I'll pick up on, candidates market. It's really a candidates market.
Yeah.
So if you are in that candidates market and you are looking for a role,
This is your time.
Yeah, why is it, why is it the time for me? What do I need to be doing?
Yeah, it is an exciting time to be in the market or to be thinking about being in the market. The ideal scenario is always that, it's easier to engage in a search for your next move when you are employed. That's a broad statement. It's an old world statement, but always true today. All right. So you're always going to be more desirable, marketable when you are employed and adding value to a company, and you are in often a more desirable negotiating position as well. Okay. But here's what I want to get us to start to think about now, which is a big question. And the question is why? And I love that question because although the market is crazy and you as Toronto's elite product managers who are gathered here tonight, although you may be sought after and maybe getting inundated with messages from all kinds of people wanting to talk with you, it's important to examine ourselves and ask ourselves, why do I think I need to entertain an option right now? Why do I think I should be talking with companies and maybe interviewing or maybe even thinking about a job change? And the reason why I challenge product managers to think about the why is because to move, we always want to be moving towards something. We want to move towards something that adds growth, that benefits us, and in turn that we can give benefit to where we go next, as opposed to running away from something. And running away from something is a natural, like running away, fear, frustration, anger, all these things are natural emotions. We all have them. And all work is hard. I can only imagine. In fact, I don't even think I can imagine the hard work that all of you do as part of your roles, whether you're an individual contributor or whether you're running a product organization. Your job is hard. And guess what? It's going to be hard everywhere. So why do you think that you should actually go work somewhere else? That's the question you need to ask yourself, and really wrestle with that before you make a decision. Because every time that you move as a product person, we're going to be talking about this in what kind of is the thread of what I'm weaving, your product story really matters. And that is what will always set you apart when you are in the game competing against other candidates or moving towards something else. The other thing we want to think about is do you have a North Star? Is there something that you identified recently or earlier in your career that is really what you want to be working towards? And that's different person to person. There are some product people I talk with, and their goal is to be a CEO. That is their goal. And any move that they make, they measure the move. Would it add something that I don't currently have or have done that would get me closer to my ultimate goal of being a CEO? Or maybe for you, it's to be a founder. Maybe you want to be that person who, works for companies and sees what they do best, what they're struggling with, and how products don't become successful, because you ultimately, your side hustle, you want that to become a meaningful product in a business one day. All right. So understanding, do I have a North Star, and what is it? And when am I going to be flexible on making decisions that get me there? Because at different times and stages in our life, different things take over, right? And we may have to put the dream on hold while we tackle this stage in our life, and then we're back on it. Knowing our finances is very important if we are a candidate about to enter the marketplace. What do I mean by finances? Well, we don't want to be ever making decisions about offers or advancing or pulling out of a process based on dollar numbers that may be heard if you don't actually know, and I know this is going to sound crazy, what you earn, because there's some product people who really, I'm going to have to look at my T4. I really don't know. I mean, this happens. Or what your expenses are and your whole situation, to know where do I have give and take based on how I value this opportunity. Okay, so it's really important to know this before you get engaged, and to have the discussions with your personal stakeholders. What do I mean by that? Well, a search process could run, in less than 2 weeks, it could be done, or it could take 6 months. And you never want to be in a position as a candidate to one day sit down with a person who's going to be involved in making that decision with you, a spouse, a partner, your pet, whoever, and say, by the way, I got an offer today. What? I didn't even know you were looking. What does this mean to the family? What does this mean to our house and our new mortgage and our rental property and our cottage and our dream vacation that we're going to take when COVID's over? We never want to surprise our stakeholders. So knowing our finances, having these conversations is really important before we get into a crazy market. Okay. And then we want to be in a position of readiness. All right. Being in a position of readiness before you enter into the market, especially this one, is critical, because you want to have those data, metrics, product stories that you are ready to talk about that separate you from the other masses also in the market who want the job that you want, because it's the coolest job in the city, the highest paying job in the city. That product leader is the one who everybody wants to work for, or wow, that net new thing, that innovation, that new brand, everybody wants to be a part of it. You need to be ready with all of the data points that validate, hey, I've actually been successful, and these are the things that I've done, and I would love nothing more than to tell you about it. And then we want to curate our product story. Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And we also want to start to think about candidates expanding the bubble. Okay, because in crazy times, we cannot always lean upon the people we've leaned on in the past to help hire us where they go, or where our social circles and our networks are going to be the source of our next opportunity. We need to enlarge our bubbles. So whether that means connecting to people outside of your typical community or engaging with search firms who you've never engaged with before, we want to start to do these things so that when you're in the market or want to be, you are ready to go and make some go, no-go decisions.
So, what I'm hearing, know your long-term goal.
Yeah.
Know what your story is that separates you. Be ready for that moment. And a follow-up question to this would be, how do you know if you should leave? Like, how do you know? Because I feel like in this crazy, where there's so much noise, there's this almost like this fear of missing out. The person who sat next to me last week, they took a different job, and the person who sat over there, they've left to go take on a different product job. So, in terms of how you decipher whether you should go, and maybe you're happy, maybe you're, but you have this fear of missing out. You have this like, everyone else is leaving, so I should leave too. But then you leave, but then maybe you shouldn't have left. So how do you filter out whether you should be going and filter out the noise?
Yes, and you and I talked about this yesterday, and I love this question, because here's the perspective, and I'm going to say this as someone who's worked for a firm for 20 years. In this crazy market, it's very easy to think, yeah, oh my goodness, should I move? And what if you're the person who's not getting all those messages or the phone calls that people are getting? How does that make you feel?
Like you're missing out, like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. And I want to reassure people who are feeling those things that there is absolutely nothing wrong with building a career in a company. People, the world is made up of different people. Product, if you look at this group alone, this is a mixed, eclectic group of different lifestyles and situations and skills and experiences and things that are important. Every one of us in this room tonight values different things in our life beyond work. Okay. We are more than our work. We are more than our jobs. You are more than being a product manager for a tech or services-based company. Okay. And it is okay to build a career and do good quality work, like who you're working for. Sure, you might have some frustrations with leadership or bureaucracy or different things, but you're going to have those things anywhere you go. And if you feel that you're adding value to your business and you're feeling valued, if you are progressing through initiatives or projects, or if there's a ladder in your company and you're part of climbing that ladder, if you're seen as an advisor or a trusted advisor to the leadership of your business, or you're mentoring the next generation, and you've been there for a while, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years or longer, no one has the right to tell you that you shouldn't be there, that you should be in the market, that why aren't you looking? Because if you are satisfied, you have found something that many people might never find. Okay. So, all of this is to say, you got to look deep into yourself and what is important. And it's okay to stay where you are and keep doing a great job. And I say that as someone who's been here 20 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think we should have retitled it Therapy with Heidi Ram in the product space for those that have the fear of missing out and are wondering if they should leave. I think that's awesome. That's awesome. So let's flip the question around from a hiring perspective, because there are people, I'm sure, on the call who are not just in the space of product and product management and leadership, but I'm looking for people. There are others on the call, I'm sure, looking for people. So what does it mean to be a leader in this market who are looking for people? Like what would you suggest that they should be focused on or looking at in terms of being an employer in this market, in this crazy market?
Well, it is a crazy market for employers, and it feels like every single employer I talk with is saying the same thing. Wow, this is crazy. We're struggling with hiring. That's why we're talking to you. And so I applaud you, employers. This is your time as well. And it's an exciting time to be hiring product people. Why is that? Because you have the chance to flex competition and your ability to fight for talent. Okay. You're going to reimagine how you do hiring, and you're going to learn new things. And isn't that really what product? That's so foundational in product. And this is your chance to really compete for talent you might not have otherwise had the opportunity to have because of the remote COVID, remote first, whatever situation is, right? Talent is available. Now, here's what I recommend at a very basic level if you're an employer, okay? You might have to be the champion of innovation in your business, because many times it's hard to turn a company of stakeholders and HR people and other decision makers to reimagining the process of what has to apply today in attracting people. So you as a product leader might have to champion a new way of interviewing, shortlisting, and hiring, okay? One of the biggest things that we encourage employers to think about is asking themselves, when you interview, are you interviewing looking for reasons to hire? Or are you looking for reasons not to hire? And that nuance is very subtle, but it's sort of that glass half empty, glass half full. We're looking at all the reasons why, the no, the negative, or, oh my goodness. Okay, so if we know no one's perfect, there's no perfect candidate on the face of the earth. This person has enough of this, and you know what, that one thing, we can get someone else to spend some time with them and get them ramped up on that thing. But the two core things we need, they got that. All right. So thinking about that, focusing on outcomes is another really important thing for employers who are hiring product talent. Right now in this market, it is not about the interview process. We want to have 3 interviews, 5 interviews, 8 interviews. We want every single person on the Scrum team, all the people. Let's get customer success meeting. What about tech support? Like, how do they interact with people at all levels? You know what? By the time first of all, candidates today might churn out. And by the time we get to that, there has been time for other employers to introduce themselves into that candidate cycle. And now you've got competition, which you might not have had earlier on in your process. So really getting it down to the outcome. We're interviewing to hire. We're not interviewing to keep meeting people forever and interviewing forever. Big, big thing. Reimagining that process and then becoming a student of the market. This is a chance for you to learn about how to do things at what is a time in tech that we're all going to look back on and remember 10 years from now. Just like we look back on 2000, 2001, 2002, 2008, 2010, we're going to look back on these days and you're going to have stories. What are the lessons you're learning right now that you're going to tell the next generation when you're 2 levels up, when you're an investor, when you're a CEO, when you're a CPO? What are you going to tell your children about how to do a job search or how to hire, 10, 15 years from now? This is what you're going to learn now.
And it feels like you have to, like, we as employers, as people interview, have to raise our game. We can't keep on doing the same thing that we've done. We can't go through, there's 8 layers of interviews to get to the outcome. I do think that this is here to stay. Like, I think about that product management role, and I think what we've seen, over the last 5 years, it's doubled. I don't see it trailing off because, product management does have that kind of business mindset, the technology mindset, the user experience, and that is continuing to grow. And we're seeing those product management roles keep on growing and growing in demand. So as leaders, we have to figure out how we're going to screen candidates and interview and not just, become out of touch with where the market is at. I think if we can maybe switch gears a minute, Heidi, just to go to some of the questions that are brewing on here. I don't know if you can see them there. Dimitri posted a question just going back on the North Star. How do you find your North Star?
You know what? North Stars are personal because it's who we are as people. We've been formed by our past and our education and our families and our cultures and, the dreams of childhood. There's so many, sometimes our North Stars are influenced. I know at one point in my career, my North Star was influenced by my mother. And I can tell you, she should not have been influencing my North Star at all, but she did. And so North Stars are something that only you can determine. And guess what? It doesn't have to be the one thing forever. It might be for a season. So for example, I get a lot of people reaching out to me, and there might be some in the group tonight who ask this question: how do I get into product? Heidi, can you help me get into a career in product management? For that person, I say, hey, that's your North Star. That's your goal, okay? To get into product. But it's going to be different for everyone. And there's no right or wrong North Star.
And there's another question here we'll get to, and then we'll get back to the questions here. But question. So I fully agree with you, Heidi. All these feeling factors are correct and happening these days. Yet I believe it won't be easy at all to get and receive a new offer, as there is still a very aggressive competition in the market. This is what I hear from my friends. What do you think? So that question's from, and I hope I pronounce this right, Zudi.
Yes, competition's brutal. It's really brutal. And we're going to talk about that in a moment here in the next slide. I think that if I were to boil it down to one thought, that as product managers is the thing to be continually going back to, is nailing down how you communicate your product story. Or if you don't have a product story, what you're doing and your contribution. Scope, scale, all of those things are essential because so many product people on paper, you're managing a roadmap. You're working with cross-functional teams, blah, blah. Yeah, it's all this, for most people, it's the same things, but how you separate yourself is you as an individual, who you are, and then what you've been working on in your product story. Always refining that. That's that secret sauce piece that's always in motion.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to know your story. That separates you. And I think Raul just commented here, your why and your how. So that's a good transition, and we'll get back to some of the questions as well, because they're great. I think you've said it before. You said it. We were talking about this, but there's no linear path into product. Some people get in through the function through, they came through the engineering side, sales side, marketing side. So what do you see in terms of that career path of someone and what they need to be aware of?
So if we think about your career in product, these 5 points apply to wherever you are in your career, early, mid, senior level. And we're going to pick each of those 3 apart in a moment, but I'm going to just scroll through this really fast. First of all, if we think about your product career in its entirety, okay, be assured it's a long game. And this part of it that you're in right now is this is now. This is here, this is now. This is not where you started. This is not where you're going to probably end up, but it's right here, right now. Okay. And that's important to think about because sometimes we feel we are ready for the next thing versus actually being ready. or having someone else who matters, who can actually influence our movement to the next thing when that person doesn't see us as ready. We can feel it. Is that truth? Well, it depends on who you ask, okay? So I say this because there's so many product managers out there because of the excitement and the enthusiasm and the growth in product that, maybe you joined a product company, maybe you joined a tech company and you've been there for 3 years. 3 years. And you've been a product manager for 2 of those 3 years. And you now feel that you need senior on your title. I believe I'm a senior product manager. Or maybe you've been in a tech company for a while and you've released a product over a few cycles. Now, you know what? You believe you're ready to be a director because you're seeing other people getting hired as directors and you think, well, I'm better than that person. I'm more experienced. How did they get a director job? This is natural and normal to be wondering these things. Okay. So feeling ready versus being ready, wanting something out of that path that you want versus needing to stay and learn and get the rigor and the discipline and the repeatable, sustainable stuff, right? These are the things that are part of the long game. So, hey, guess what? You don't have to be in a hurry because I think tech's going to be around for a while. Pretty sure. Okay. The key is growing. No matter what you're working on, no matter what role you play in a tech company, in some part of that product organization, that you are growing, that you are getting better, incrementally better and smarter and ready every time, and gaining successes under your belt. Okay. You've got some wins to talk about. If you have absolutely never shipped a product in your product career, let's start to learn and figure that out, because ultimately to get to your big, ambitious unicorn dream, you're probably going to have shipped some products somewhere. And how you feel about that is irrelevant. Okay. So these are the things to be thinking about. Next, there's many tracks to product. And sometimes we can get caught up in analysis paralysis. Am I where I should be right now? Oh, I can't take that job because it's not where I think or feel I need to be at this point. All right. Case in point, when I chat with people, if you're early stage, and I don't think there's a lot of those people in this group tonight, but let's say you're trying to get into product management. My counsel is don't focus on only jobs that will hire you as a product person. Let's start with, let's work for a tech company. Get into tech. How is that tech company going to hire you? Hey, if someone says, I could see you joining here as a customer success person, got it, do it. Hey, I think you'd be a great salesperson. If you think you can do that job, you go for it. Work for a tech company first. Be successful, learn, grow, and then advocate, get to know your boss and share your dream and your story and ask them, listen, I've got a dream to get into product. I'm doing this course, this degree. I've been studying product things. Would you be my advocate and help endorse me when the next opening comes up in our product organization? Can I get your support on that? And if not, what do I have to do to be that person who you'll endorse into a product role? Okay. That's my advice to wannabes. So don't wait for perfect, because I think in product, you're taught not to wait for perfect, just ship it and then get the data and learn and then iterate. That's what you're going to do. Understanding your North Star or not. Okay. Reevaluating that North Star at different points in your career. What's important to all product people, I've already talked about it, this product story, learning how to communicate what you've achieved and accomplished, what you've done, how your efforts have made a difference and I'm talking quantifiable, okay? Metrics, numbers. If you're responsible for a mobile app and you have no clue how many users there were when you got there and how many there are today, or how many downloads or they actually subscribed and now they're paying for it, these are the metrics you need to know. Okay? Money. And let's talk about money, because this is always going to be part of that career roadmap of yours. And money becomes money conversations look different at each stage of your career. So let's get into that. Let's touch briefly on the early stage of your career. This is for someone who is entering a product career, either straight out of school, wouldn't that be amazing? Or through sales or CS or engineering or whatever, okay? Your first mission is, you know what, learn the job and do the job and then do it again and then do it again and then do it again and do it better every single time and get feedback from your boss. Be open, become a student of the craft and about how you're doing. Okay, so invite those meetings with your leaders. You know, am I living up to your expectations? What would you do differently? What do you recommend? Become the student. And whatever you do, when you leave that job, make sure you've got a great reference. You need that company endorsing that. You know what? They did a good job. During this early stage, as you are starting to exit your first product career, you are going to start to reimagine how you communicate who you are, because who you are leaving that first job, or maybe your second job in product, is not who you were when you first joined. In fact, your resume might even still look like and talk like the resume of a customer success person. You're still talking about revenue and customers and all of those non-product language things. So you want to start to reimagine how you look on paper and how you communicate who you are and what you do, and start talking the function of product, because that's what you have to sound like to the next person who's going to hire you as a product person, not like the person who hired you as a CS person or in sales. How you're making job changes at this stage of your career is you're probably applying to jobs online. You're probably following your colleague. Hey, so-and-so just got hired over there. They're saying, come on over, the water's cooler over here, or the grass is greener, whatever. You're going to follow your friends and colleagues, and you might even get hired by the boss you had. And when they moved on, they said, you know what, if I'm going to pull one person over here, boom, it's you. So that might be how these people move on. In this early stage of your career, money is often very important, because you're still going to move for money. At this stage, you're probably not going to move for the same, because there's upward bandwidth in salary scales. You're not joining and then, wow, you're at the max of product in the world. No, there's chances to move. So you're probably going to move incrementally up. Unless, of course, the company you have dreamed of working for wants to hire you. And for that, you might put a value on that and say, you know what, for that job to work there, guess what? Whatever, I just want to work there. And that's okay too, okay? So that's sort of this early stage person. Then we're going to get to the community. This is most of you. This is most people who are functioning in product. And at this point, no matter like wherever you are in this product career, you might be starting to get labeled. Maybe you're an SME, maybe you're a fintech person. Oh, I'm ed tech. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. Maybe you're a B2B or a B2C, you're an API person. You're starting to get, hey, I'm super technical. I'm full stack all the way. Oh no, I'm all about ideating. These things start to develop at this point in your career. And what really begins to emerge as critical at this point is curating your story, and that in particular, the product story of successes. Where was it at when you got there? And because of you and your efforts, where is it at today? Now, some people will say, oh, but Heidi, that would be bragging. I don't want to brag. Right. Well, in a job situation where we're in a competitive situation and everyone thinks they're as awesome as they believe they are, we need to stand out. And stats and metrics and quantifiable information always separates the person who talks more about process when the question is about growth, right? So we want to be ready with those things. And we also, this is a huge I can recognize when I'm talking with a really senior level individual contributor when they are curious. Oh my goodness, there is another level out there, people, of senior product people who will ask smart questions, and they're listening to what I'm saying, and then they are responding to what they've done in alignment to what I'm describing the client is looking for. Okay. And so this group, how you can begin to separate yourself, is really developing the active listening, really asking the questions and being curious about opportunities, and then aligning and serving up the data to what matters most to the person you're engaging with. Generally, within this community of people, how this group communicates, it's beautiful. It's as you become more senior, there is an openness. Okay, so someone who's not as experienced might feel insecure and they don't want to say too much, and they may not want to ask too many questions. Okay, and they might put up roadblocks. Well, just send me the job description. I'll tell you if I'm interested. Okay, who's the company? I'll let you know what I think. Okay, but more senior people, when they engage in a job search, will engage to build relationships because they know, hey, I'm not here forever. And I want you to know who I am. I want you to be thinking about me. All right. And they begin to sort of be more open. Senior people who are in kind of a market and starting to think about job changing, well, generally a senior person will communicate intent, and they're communicating in a very transparent way. These are those little game changers that, wow, I know I'm talking with someone really good when they're saying, you know what, in full transparency, because I'm sensitive to not wanting to waste anybody's time, I'm already engaged in 4 cycles right now, and I'm probably expecting an offer on Monday. Or, you know what, in full transparency, I'm actually not interested in an opportunity at all, Heidi, but, because I know that you work in product, I thought we'd just take a few minutes and connect just so we know each other. And I'm happy to tell you anything that you want to know, or my product story. And I'd love to know what you typically work on. Just an openness, a willingness. These are senior people who are confident, successful, and just want to be engaging. The other fascinating thing about, as we get into this broad community of candidates and really separating those who are kind of that next level, is how people talk about money. Okay, so money is a touchy subject because we all need it and we all earn it, and we all feel that at some point that we're probably not even earning enough. And while money always becomes a huge part, like it is ultimately, an offer negotiation is about money and numbers on a piece of paper that you are going to sign a legal document to say, yes, I will do the job for this. But in the world of product managers, it's interesting to note that the more senior people in product will make a move, and money is not the number one reason they move. Why do they move? They move for the opportunity to do something net new, to solve new problems they've never solved before. They move for the opportunity to sort of move closer towards that North Star, which they may or may not even necessarily be able to truly identify, but they know that I want to end up there in that kind of a business or stage of company, or with that leadership team. Okay. I've placed many product leaders and product managers who have moved for the same money or less, because the value of the role was so much greater than where they were. Okay. Now I'm going to put an aside. If you're ever working with a recruiter, here's the thing, and it doesn't have to be me. Here's good advice about working with recruiters in general. They want you to make as much as possible. True. Because recruiters generally earn a percentage of your base salary. So you never really have to worry that they're going to be lowballing or hoping that you take less or that the offer is low. It just doesn't work that way, right? What do real estate agents want? That the house sells at the highest possible price, but within reason, so that the buyer actually, the seller signs it and the buyer says yes, right? So know that. But money is interesting. Now, with a less experienced candidate, or I'm kind of a junior person, when talking about money, might say something like this. When I ask, so tell me what you currently earn, And what are your expectations when making a move? So where are you at, and what are you hoping to earn next? What are you thinking? A less experienced candidate might answer like this. I want 120 base. It's got to be 120. I'm, you know what, if it's not at least 120, I'm not even interested. I need 120. Okay. A more seasoned, experienced candidate might answer like this. I'm going to tell you what I earn, but I want you to know this, Heidi. I'm looking for a great opportunity that's going to take me to the next level. I'm looking for the leadership. I'm looking for solving a problem I've never solved before. And quite frankly, just because I never want to commute to an office again, I'd love it if the office was in Markham. Okay. So today I'm earning 135, but I'm going to be flexible based on the opportunity. How does that align to the things that you're working on? That's a pretty confident person who answers in that way. And salaries are a big discussion, and that, you know, how flexible you are and how flexible an employer is depends on how epic you are in the interview and how well you align to what they're looking for. Okay. So it's never just a conversation, it's an actual whole journey, and ultimately the employer decides. No recruiter is going to decide that final number, I can tell you that. And this group of candidates, when it comes to making a job change, they're working with all channels. Okay. They're engaging with recruiters, they're applying directly, and they're being pulled in by people they know. And the last group I want to talk about are leaders. And I'm not talking about leaders of people. I'm talking about people who are senior level. All right. Where they have influence in a company. Maybe their name is like, they're like Cher, right? If we said their first name, everybody would know who they are. There's legend, there's reputation, they are influential. And this person is concerned about and driving revenue and growth. Yes, the product piece is critical, but it's about growth. And when they make a job change, it might be through a venture community, because maybe they work for a company that went public or got acquired or whatever, and they're getting pulled in by the people who know that they can make it happen at the next one. Through their personal network, of course, these people are getting jobs through search firms, and their motivators and reasons why they change are many times for impact, to drive growth, to be the change agent of a business that's looking to do big things, and the opportunity to do an exit. And I know that we're running out of time. I cannot believe that we're already at the 7 o'clock mark. Sean, what do we do?
What I propose, Heidi, let's take a few more questions, because some really good questions out there. We're not going to get to all the questions, but I think there's some good ones that I think would resonate with everybody on the call right now. And then you can wrap up with your recruiter adding value. But so far, it's just been, the time has actually flown by. It's been fascinating, and it's been fantastic. So, and still, you know, most everyone is with us who started with us, so which is a great sign. In terms of certification, so Tendai asked questions, with so many certifications on the market, which do you recommend for product owners and managers?
Okay, great question. Generally speaking, when I'm engaged in a search, a certification is not part of the requirement. It's pretty rare. I don't remember the last time any one of our clients said, and they have to be certified in XYZ. It's more about experiences of like experiences. So for example, you know, we'll often have clients who will say, and we really want someone who's worked on an AI machine learning product, where they're working with data scientists, you know, or we really want someone who's worked on a product that's used by everyday people, consumers. So thank you for asking the question.
So it's back to, it's more about your product story.
Yes.
Versus, oh, I have XYZ certification from XYZ organization.
Yeah.
Those don't hurt you.
They don't hurt.
Sure.
They don't hurt.
But they aren't on the list of what an employer would be asking you to go find someone with XYZ certification from XYZ organization.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question from Byron. Good question. As COVID starts to subside, do you think remote roles will start to drop off, or are they here to stay?
Oh, I hope they're here to stay. I personally do. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. I know that not all employers are embracing remote forever. We have talked with a number of companies who are trying to navigate the murky waters of hybrid, where certain groups are coming in on certain days and other groups come in on other days. I don't know. I don't know how that's working out. I don't know if anyone's even going in. I really hope it's here to stay.
Last question, and then I'll give it back to you if you want to wrap up with the last slide. And because Raul got up at 6 a.m. because he thought it was at 6 a.m. because I think the initial thing, I'll give the last question to him. In newer startups, how important is it to bring the business case CapEx discipline?
Okay, ask that again. Say that
Sure.
again.
In newer startups, okay,
Yeah.
how important is it to bring the business case CapEx discipline? So capital management, expense management,
Yeah.
business case. So that holistic business case skills, the numbers.
You know what? Here, it's interesting. So generally speaking, I'm recruiting for startups or a startup business within a bigger brand. And it's really not, I never get asked for that. It's not a criteria I'm asked to search for. Yeah, it
Okay.
really is all about the product. And who doesn't want to hire someone who's worked on a successful product that had growth and the business was successful, and that, later on there was an exit where, someone, where there was that transaction. So
We'll do some breakouts. I don't know, Heidi, if you're going to stay around for the breakouts, but we're okay. Perfect. So somebody who didn't get an opportunity to ask questions to Heidi and directly through me, she'll be around for the breakouts. I'll turn it over to you. I know this is important in terms of how recruiters can add value, and then we'll move to the community open mic, and then we'll move to the breakouts. And
yes, here's the interesting thing. Most people don't get their jobs through recruiters. They don't. Most people do not change jobs through a recruiter. Here's how most people get jobs. Most people will secure their next position through someone they know, their personal network. So your ex-boss goes to this company and they recruit you to come along. Or you get a referral through your network. That's the number one way most people get their next job. The second way is that candidates apply directly. Now, here's my quick thought about that. You as a product person are solving problems that impact a company and a business. So when you apply directly to a company that you aspire to work for, you want to go high. You want to take the time to research who's the founder, CEO, and who's most likely to run product. And that's who you want to personally, intentionally target with a reach out versus applying directly to a company's website and ending up in that bottomless pit of thousands of applicants. That senior level stakeholder who's going to be your future boss is probably not mining that database of web applicants. No, you want to get to the heart of the person who's lying in bed at night thinking, where are we ever going to find this person? HR can't do it fast enough and we're too cheap to hire a third-party recruiter. So you want to end up in that person's email. That's how you apply direct. Okay, and you can do it. I know you can. The third way is through recruiters. It's a three-legged stool to get a job. Recruiters are the gravy. We're the extra. We're the person who, based on their search projects and the contracts that an employer has signed with them, they may or may not have an opportunity for you. Okay, but you definitely want to reach out to your recruiting network and people who have reached out to you in the past to say, hey, I'm actually open to opportunities in 2022, just letting you know to be on your radar. but it's not always going to be the source of your next opportunity. All right. The ability of a recruiter to assist you begins with them having a contract signed by a company who has asked them to find someone just like you. If they don't have that, it's a long game, right? But you're going to keep in touch because it's a long game. And if you're talking with recruiters, here's my advice, because this is a murky world. Qualify the recruiters you're talking with. There's lots of great search firms out there, or people who work just independently on their own. If you're engaging with them, ask them, hey, how many product roles do you typically work on in a year? Like, what's the scope of your practice? Because that will help you just sort of maybe put their contact information into a special list versus, the mass number of recruiters who you're keeping track of should you ever need one day. All right, really qualify that recruiter and have them educate you on what they do and how likely they are to be someone who might help you in your long game career. And that's it.
Sorry. Thank you, Heidi. That was absolutely awesome. I think, again, something for everyone tonight, whether you're looking for a role, whether you're thinking about moving. Now, you may not be thinking about moving because, you may be happy, and that fear of missing out could be something where you're still learning and you're still contributing, and maybe moving now isn't the right time, but absolutely fantastic. So we'll move to the community mic. I'd also like to, before we have any announcements from anyone on the call, just a reminder that there will be a survey sent out after this, just to get some feedback as to how we can improve. I don't know how we'd improve on Heidi's talk tonight, but want to get some feedback as to what other speakers you'd like to see in the months to come. But just absolutely, very grateful to you, Heidi, for coming out tonight. So thank you very, very much for that. So any community announcements? And if there aren't any community announcements, I would propose that we move to the breakouts, and we will all be put in rooms. If you're willing to, if you can stick around, that's fantastic. And again, just thank you so much, Heidi. And we'll move to the breakouts for some networking. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, everyone. The breakout rooms will be open in just a moment. Having slight tough, there we go.
Do I just choose all rooms? Is that what happens?
Yes, it should have actually, I'm going to close the rooms and reopen them. Should have assigned them automatically. However, it didn't.
I've never done this before. This is so exciting. I'm learning something here. I love it.
Okay, bear with me, everyone.
Yeah, no problem.
There we go. This worked last time.
It started to go, Rena.
It
saw
did.
that.
Yeah, there we go. Starting again. Unfortunately, people are not being automatically assigned. So I will just do a quick assignment. It is going to be random. That's not working for me.
We can go and manually assign, no?
You can, yeah, that's what exactly.
Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna go in and start signing. Should we do 4 rooms?
There, yeah, that sounds good.
No, we won't do number 5.
Sounds good. Apologies, everyone. As we know, technology is not always doesn't always work as smoothly as we want it to.
But we get to network.
It's true.
It's just like being there. Okay. So we're all gonna join different rooms.
We're going
Okay.
different rooms.
We'll see you. See
Yeah,
everybody.
you.
Hi, I'm not sure what happened. I think I got booted out of room 1.
Ah, okay. Interestingly, you're not showing up as out of room 1, but let me.
How do I say your name, by the way? Is it Rena?
It is, yes.
Okay. Great to meet you.
Great to meet you as well. Imad, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Well, we can always just stay here and and do our own little networking.
Sure, yeah, I'd love that.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Tell me, like, I think I've seen you in, like, are you one of the organizers? I'm actually.
I am. I'm part of the TPMA board.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Product Management Association board. So myself, Sean, who was moderating the conversation today, Nathan, Rhythm, and Harmon are the current board members.
Okay, great. Great to meet you.
You as well. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
I actually just joined, I think, like last month. So like this is my actually my second event.
Oh,
I
great.
do remember actually, yeah, you were hosting the
Yes.
previous one. Yeah, but like so far it's been great. I've worked for many years in a whole bunch of continents. This is I think the 7th country across the 3rd continent that I've worked since my
Wow.
undergrad. I'm looking into getting into product, but yeah, like so I'm really trying to like network and try to get to know people.
And
How about
so,
you?
And so, wow, I have to say first that's really interesting. So seven countries
Yeah, across 3
Wow.
continents.
Across
since
3
undergrad.
continents.
Yeah.
Wow. What's your undergrad in?
I did my background in engineering, and then I did my master's degree quite a while ago.
Okay. Have you been on the technology side then?
I've worked in tech. I've worked as a fintech consultant for a SaaS company for like a year, but or a bit over a year, and that was my last job. So right now I'm working at U of T actually as like a sort of a program manager, I guess, or something along those lines. But I'm like, I don't know the best way of like, because I find it's very there's no like one set path to product, so I don't really know exactly. And maybe if like I would love it if you can